What's up, YouTube? It's been a little while. Well, the planned video for today got postponed till another day, but that's because last night, excuse me, I went to go see, with Viper and Angel, Top Gun Maverick. So, I'm going to talk about that. Now, warning, since the movie is out, and I can't talk about this movie properly without spoilers. Spoiler warning. There will be spoilers. So be warned. If you haven't seen it, and you don't want to be spoiled, leave now. I'll give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Alright. Now I can talk as much as I want. Alright, so Top Gun Maverick. Okay. I didn't have a big request going into the movie, okay? So it was great. I can't say whether it was better than the original or not, but it wasn't one of those movies where they're like, oh, hey, let's make a sequel just to make a sequel. No, this movie was thought out. This one movie made sense of why it took them this long. Well, one, because it took them forever to greenlight it, but the story, they could not have done the story 2 years after the movie came out, and the story makes sense. Okay. But 36 years later, 35 years later, I think Tom Cruise said 36, so we'll go with 36, just because that's what Tom Cruise said. 36 years later, yeah, the story's warranted. Okay, so my only request was one thing, and it was a music related. I'm like, they have to play Danger Zone. That's like the Top Gun theme song. They've got to play it. And sure enough, they did the opening credit thing where they did the, they also did this from the first movie, where they talked about the origins behind Top Gun. I'm not going to go into that. I'm not. But just seeing that there was just like, yes. And that's when they put the logo up. And I'm like, yes. And then shortly after that, they did just like how they opened the first movie with the carriers and launching off planes, even though the beginning of this movie had nothing to do with the carrier. The carrier doesn't come into play till later in the movie. But they play Danger Zone. And I'm like, okay, I'm good. That's all I requested. I'm good. And then, I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the song, but so I'm going to jump forward a little bit here, and I'm going to go back. But they have a bar scene. And, okay, so you see the jukebox, and if everybody remembers the end of the first movie, I almost said second there, they play the One Love song on jukebox at the end. Well, when I saw the jukebox, I thought they were going to do that again. I'm like, oh, they gonna? And I'm like, okay, that's some random rock song. And then somebody, they don't ever show us who, I'm assuming it was Rooster, codename Rooster. I'll get into actually who that is here in a little bit when I start talking about characters here in a minute. But he goes to the piano and starts playing the piano. I think he had to uncover the piano and then starts playing it. And then after Maverick gets himself kicked out of the bar for ironically not being able to play his bar tab. Ironically enough. Is why he gets thrown out of a bar. Which is funny. He asked me, it's funny. But they start playing and singing the song that Goose and Maverick and Goose's son are singing during the one scene when Goose's family comes to visit Top Gun, right before Goose dies. So that's a major callback in. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so yeah. And then another scene in the trailer. There are two misleading things in the trailer. And I'm glad neither one of them led to actually anything. Okay, well, they lead to things, but not what you think. Okay, first of all, it looks like Rooster, who is Goose's son, the little boy, yes. So ironically, his first name is Bradley Bradshaw. Looks like he's going to punch Maverick in the face in the trailer. But in the actual scene in the movie, he wants to punch the pilot, codename Hangman, in the face. Which, I'm sorry, but he's like the Iceman character of the movie, okay? Except for, there's one difference between him and Iceman. One difference. Iceman was an understandable douche, okay? Like, he didn't like Maverick because of, how reckless he was and stuff like that. Like, he was understandable, why he was being a douche. Like, as much as he was a douche and you didn't like him, at the end, when you're supposed to somewhat like him, it makes sense. But this guy, he's like a mix. If I had to describe Hangman, he was a mix of Maverick mixed with Iceman. So you get the Iceman douchiness, but cocky as hell, kind of like how Maverick was in the first movie. Put those two together, yeah, it's not a good combo. The guy's a douche. The guy is a douche the entire movie. Even in the end of the movie, when he's supposed to come back and play the hero, he's still a douche! And you still want to punch him! Like they did him and Rooster do the whole handshake thing. Kind of like how Maverick and Iceman did at the end of the first movie. And I'm sorry, I wanted Rooster to punch him right in the mouth. I'm like, no, you deserve to be punched in the mouth, bro. There is no, no make me like you. Okay, so when the movie actually picks up with the actual storyline of the movie, and this is where things get interesting. I'll talk more about Rooster in a little while, in a bit, after I get into kind of the story. So we pick up with Maverick. Apparently he owns a hangar, and apparently he stays in the hangar. And he owns an old P-50, I think it was a P-51 plane? I think it was a P-51. I'm not real sure what kind of a World War II fighter pilot plane it was, but I think it was a P-51. But I'm not real sure. I'm not great with my old school planes, I'm sorry. I'm better with the more modern ones like the F-14, the F-18, the F-16. I'm better with them than I am with the older planes like World War II era, but I believe it was a P-52. So yeah. And he was working on that at the beginning. And Maverick is still Maverick, so apparently he's been working as a test pilot because that's the only flying job he can get. Well, he's 50-something years old, probably almost 60 at this point, so no surprise they don't have him running any missions anymore. I mean, hello, he's 50-something years old. They make it clear he's a little bit later, that he's the only pilot to ever kill 3 enemy planes in a dogfight. Yeah, that total changes. And that was in an F-14, now that's 18, which is what they use nowadays. Which is what they fly in this movie. Well, not completely, not the entire time. I'll get into that later, though. Okay, so of course Maverick pulls a Maverick. He gets to where they're testing this plane out, and his friend, who's I don't even know how to describe this guy. First of all, I did not like that he's supposed to be a Navy guy, but yet he was in Army fatigues, not Navy. Unless, I think Navy might be switching to using the same one as Army, but I don't know nowadays. I'm out of the loop on that stuff. But last I saw and heard, Navy was wearing blue camouflage. But I'm out of the loop on that stuff, so I don't know. They could be wearing the same ones as Army, because you can't even see his plate tag right here that would tell you what branch he's with. So, yeah, he tells them that the program's been scrapped because they couldn't because of an admiral, and the admiral was on his way to scrap the program and all that. And he's like, oh, he wants the plane to go 10 Gs? I'll make the plane go 10 Gs. And, of course, right as he's getting ready to take off, the admiral shows up. Of course. Because it's the admiral. But, yeah, so then, yeah. The admiral was not happy about that. He does get it to go 10 Gs, and, of course, he goes over the 10 Gs and crashes it, of course. And Maverick gets in trouble, and he tells the admiral, goes, he tells him how he would ground him if he could, but he's going home. He's got to pack his stuff because he's headed back to Miramar, where Top Gun is. He's like, apparently somebody thinks you're still useful for their Navy. And, of course, and this is where we find out what Iceman's been up to since the events of the first movie. Apparently, he's an admiral. Well, and we find out also that Maverick's a captain, but he's never gotten the admiral rank, even though he's very distinguished. I'm like, yeah, I don't see Maverick ever being an admiral, because that would be required to be a pencil pusher. I'm sorry, I don't ever see Maverick as a pencil pusher. I'm surprised he got up to the rank of captain, to be honest, because most of the time captains aren't really pilots either at that point. They usually get their own boats and all that by that point, but it's Maverick. He got the rank of captain at least. Yay. As I said, yay. But as I was saying, Iceman's not just an admiral. He is the commander of the Pacific Fleet. Okay, and since we're already talking about Iceman, I will go into his story of the movie. He is not a huge presence in the movie, but he is a presence, and he is important. You only see him once in the movie, because apparently he's very sick. They don't say what's wrong with him. I think he got like lung cancer or throat cancer. Probably from yelling at Maverick all these years. Or who knows. They don't say what's wrong with him. The only thing they say is it's really hard for him to speak. So they don't really explain it. And that gets me into the other misleading thing from the trailer, which I did not talk about yet. Which is they show a casket right after you show one of the planes getting blown up. So you think one of the pilots might die. It's not. It's not one of the pilots. And just the way they cut the trailer made it seem like one of the pilots might die. My vote was Rooster. I'm sorry. It just seemed that way. Or they introduced a character of Phoenix, which is like Rooster's friend, ex-girlfriend. They don't really explain that real well, what those two's relationship is. It seems kind of flirtatious, but I'm not real sure on that. They don't really, even at the end when she hugs him at the end and all that, after the final battle, after the mission and all that, they don't really explain that. But yeah, I was thinking it might be hurt, but no, it's actually Iceman that dies. Which also pushes Maverick to be Maverick again. Because when he is teaching the kids, he's not flying like Maverick. He's teaching them like any other pilot, would. He's not being Maverick, except for one scene, and he does it with Rooster, which proves he's definitely Goose's son, and he's definitely was learning a bit from Maverick before he got into the Naval Academy. Because they actually do this inverted thing where, okay, so Maverick flies on top of him. So, to counteract it, Rooster dives, and they dive like this. Like this, all the way down. So they dive like that all the way down. To almost hitting the ground. And naturally, Maverick gets yelled at for breaking the hard line. You know? And of course, typical Maverick fashion. See, outside the plane, Maverick was acting like Maverick. But inside the plane, he wasn't acting like Maverick. Right after he gets yelled at about, oh, I need to, if you're going to lower the hard line, I need you to, okay it by me and all that. And then he puts a folder, which he'd been holding the whole time getting yelled at. He's like, he puts it on his face like, oh, this is a request to lower the hard line. Typical Maverick fashion. And of course it made me laugh, of course. But, so this mission they're going on, and he explains the mission and everything. They actually had to go through this cavern below these enemy anti-aircraft guns, or SAMs as they call them. But they can only, part of this, to get there to where they need to go to do their thing, they have to fly about 100 feet off the ground because they have to be below radar range. Because if they're any higher than that, they take a chance of being detected by the anti-aircraft guns. So naturally, so none of the pilots are able to do it. Rooster's probably the only one, and he flies in his plane solo. He doesn't have a reel. But he's probably the only one that could, but he is so hesitant about speed and all that. Like, there's a little bit of a mental block on him. They do, of course, solve that mental block, but it's not to the mission. But he does prove he has the skill to do it, but he's hesitant. Which is dangerous. When you think up there, you die. As Maverick Guiley tells him later. But, so there is a little bit of a... So Maverick does stay close to the family. But there is a bit of a rift between Rooster and Maverick. And the reason there's a rift is because apparently when Rooster applied for the Naval Academy, to help his Navy career along to get into the Navy faster, and getting up in the air flying faster, Maverick has his papers pulled. He tells Rooster that's because he thought he wasn't ready. But in all actuality, another reason why he did that is because his mother did not want him flying. Because of what happened to Goose. Also, it's kind of Goose's presence is still very much felt in this movie. Maverick's not, so it's not completely, solved issue. Goose is still very much of a presence in this film. Which is why, yes, many years later, they do eventually solve that. They also solve, of course, and then the next thing they have to do a dive bomb thing that was really cool. It's all really cool, and it's things they can actually do with an actual F-18. Because the actors actually had to fly F-18s for the movie, which is really cool. Okay, and so during the mission, after Maverick pulls a Maverick-level stunt, of course, after getting himself grounded, because he didn't do anything, he does a typical Maverick-level stunt and proves to all the pilots that everything they have to do, not just the cavern, but everything, can be done. He proved it could be done because he did it. Because they also were on a time shrunk because they were flying F-18s, but the enemy had fifth generations, which I'm not sure what they are to F-18s, fighters. So I'm guessing above the F-18s, because if the F-18s got into a dogfight with them, they're pretty sure they wouldn't make it. And Rooster makes a good comment when he says that it's not the plane, it's the pilot. Which comes around later. Also, after, there was a scary moment where Phoenix, which is Rooster's little friend, and her real Bob, get a bird caught on their plane, and they have to bail out. We thought one of them wasn't going to make it because the scene was eerily familiar to what happened in the first movie with Goose and Maverick. Thankfully, both of them made it, and they were both on the mission. And also, so the pilots for the mission were Payback and his reel, Maverick, Rooster, and Maverick and Rooster were flying solo, no reels, which is the person in the back of the plane. If you don't know that because you've never seen the first movie or you just didn't know that's what they're called. And then Phoenix and her reel. Hangman and then Coyote, I think, was the other pilot. Hangman's another one that flies solo, of course. And then Coyote, who does have a reel, they were both left back. Because Coyote, there's a part where they're doing the training, and he couldn't handle the G's. Hangman gets left back because he's a douche, and he has a very bad habit of when there's a dogfight or a fight, he leaves his wingman hanging. Yeah, that ain't cool. That ain't cool at all. But, so during the mission, Maverick gets shot down first. And they do make it look like Maverick doesn't make it. Thankfully, he does. So then, as Maverick's running away from a Blackhawk, I think it's a Blackhawk or an Apache helicopter. I'm not sure what kind of helicopter it was shooting at him. Rooster shows up, saves his butt. And then, no, right after Phoenix and Bob had their little scary moment, there was a little chisel thing between Rooster and Maverick. And Maverick tells him, you can't think up there. Don't think. Just do. So that comes back later because Rooster gets himself shot down, of course. Maverick being Maverick, worried as hell. Because this kid is like his son, basically. Because Maverick doesn't have any kids of his own at this point. At all. Which doesn't surprise you with Maverick. Makes total sense. Yeah. So he has to do that real quick. And then so then he has to do that real quick. So then he runs into him. He gets over to him, of course. He's okay, too. He didn't die. Oh, thank you, because that did scare me that he didn't make it either. He made it. And then Maverick's like, what were you thinking? You could have died. Typical worried father stuff. He tells him, I wasn't thinking. You told me not to think up there. I just reacted. And I'm like, good, Rooster. Way to put Maverick's words against him. And this is where some of the most funniest stuff happens. Okay, so Rooster tells him, okay, I don't know how we're going to get back, because at this point both their planes are destroyed, so there's no way for them to fly back. And because they're behind enemy lines, rescue planes can't show up to save them. So, how are we going to get back? Now, they did say when Maverick was describing the mission early in the movie that there were some F-14s stationed at this base, hidden. And sure, of course, one of them survives because it was in a building. F-14s, if you don't know, were the planes flown by Maverick, Goose, and everybody in the first movie. So, of course, I had a little chuckle there. It's like, of course. So, of course, they go and, as slyly as they can, go in, because they don't have any guns on them, which made no sense, because most of the time, most pilots have a pistol on them. They keep it, it's in their seats that they have. They keep a pistol in their seats just in case they get shot down, so they have something to defend themselves with. So they had no guns on them, apparently. Which made no sense at all. They had no guns on them. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you should have a gun on you somewhere. Yeah, because they gotta be able to defend themselves. So then they get to the plane. Maverick's explaining, how to refill and all that. They get all that taken care of. They get the plane running. They get in the air after a very short little thing. Please ignore my phone. I'll call my little brother back in a minute. Shut up, Chris. So then, of course, after all that, they get it up in the air after, of course, destroying the landing gear. Not that it matters anyways, because this is not a Navy plane anyways. It's an Air Force plane. For whatever country this is in, they don't explain that. And if they do say it, I don't remember if they said it or not. But whatever country this is in, I'm going to assume Russia, just because I don't know. But whatever country it was in, it doesn't have a tailcoat. Okay, so the difference between both the Air Force and the Navy, if you don't know, both fly, well, now it's F-18s, but, fighter planes. They both have the same ones. The only difference between a Navy and a Air Force plane is they have a thing called a tailhook, which is used to catch the rope they have, the line, I don't think it's more of a steel cable, across the aircraft carriers for them to catch it to slow them down. Now, you can't land an Air Force plane on a carrier, but they have to be warned. So they have a net they can use to catch it. Now, more than likely, the plane's not going to make it, but so, yeah, a little bit of knowledge for you. The things I happen to actually know. But, so, as I was saying, so they get it up in the air. Maverick tells Rooster, who Rooster's is in the back of the real seat. His dad's old seat. Ironically enough, of course. He tells him to get the radio running and all that stuff. And, of course, apparently Rooster's never flown in an F-14 before. Or seen an F-14. And let alone been in the back seat, because it's very clear he's a pilot, not a real. Okay? So he's never been in a back seat, and he doesn't know how to turn any of that stuff on. So after Maverick, who somewhat knows, but technically doesn't know a whole lot, because that was Goose's job, he's in the back, and he says to him, Maverick, after he tells him, oh, try this, switch or whatever. I think it was, yeah, he's like, could you give me some more detail? There's 1,000 switches back here. Maverick's like, hey, that was your dad's department. Which made me laugh so hard. I was like, yes, that was hilarious. And of course, they run into these two enemy planes. Two bandits. Two enemy planes. Bandits is a term used for enemy planes, by the way, just so you know. In case you didn't know that. And, of course, they're trying to signal him, trying to play it off, but they have no idea what any of the bad guys' hand signs mean. So Maverick's just, waving them at him all that. Hey, at least Maverick didn't do that. At least Maverick didn't fly on the bird. If you don't know what that term means, kids, don't ask your parents what that means. You don't want to know. But, okay, so, as I was saying, so basically what's been going on with that is, so of course they end up in a dogfight. Of course. And it's not the plane, it's the pilot thing, because they're using an F-14 against 5th generation. Yeah, technology-wise, yeah, those 5th generations definitely had that 14. Definitely. But it's the pilot. A good pilot, especially a good dogfight pilot, can beat a 5th generation plane in an F-14. Or at least one. Maverick ends up taking out both of them. But that's because Maverick's a dang good pilot. If he wasn't a dang good pilot, it would not work. If, as I said, if he was a, you know, if he was any other pilot, it wouldn't work. And then, of course, he beats the 2 he has, and then he ends up with one in his face. And then they do almost get destroyed. They almost do get blown up. And scary part is, Rooster does try to eject, and his handles aren't working. The exact same thing that happened to his dad. The exact same thing. Scary moment there. I was like, oh crap. This is not good. Not good. Someone's got to show up. Of course, the plane gets destroyed right as it was about to destroy him and Maverick. Because, okay, so how the F-14 works, the ejection seats work, is the backseat has to pull their switch first. So if these don't pull, like if these won't work, the ejection seats in the back doesn't work, the front can't pull out. Can't come out either. So basically they can't eject at all, which really sucks. So they both got killed. And which really been really bad way to end the movie. Hangman shows up just in the nick of time. Still a total douche. Like, still a total douche. Overall, the movie's great. Definitely should go see it if you haven't seen it already. Like, seriously, go see it. It's great. I don't think it deserves a sequel. I mean, I hope it makes a Paramount boatloads of money, but I don't think it deserves a sequel. But it is really good. Alright, I will talk to you guys later. Peace, and I'm out of here.